One of the individuals voting to vacate the chair was Representative Tim Burchett, and he joins us on the Murphy Show hotline this afternoon. Tim, good afternoon. I hope you're well.
Hey, appreciate y'all having me on. I miss Middle Tennessee.
Well, I bet you do. Man, oh man, who needs friends like Fox News? Or wait, who needs enemies when you've got friends like Fox News? I guess is what I'm trying to say. So you're getting beat up on all sides, I suppose. Just talk about your vote, your decision making process, and how you came to the vote that you did.
Well, I went down two paths in my mind. If you'll let me talk about it a little bit here real quick. I had I like Kevin McCarthy. I considered him a friend, and I thought, do I want to upset my friend, lose my friendship with Kevin McCarthy, or do I want to trust my conscience? And then I trusted my conscience, and I prayed about it, and that's what I did, and I came to that conclusion. We're $33 trillion in debt. We take in $5 trillion a year. We spend $7 trillion conservative wise. We can't continue down this path. We do a continuation budget of 30 days, and they say, "Well, pass this other one, Burchett, so we won't pass another one." That's like telling a crackhead, "Hey, I'm going to give you a rock of crack to get you off of crack." Man, that doesn't work, and it never has. All we're doing now is spending our great-grandchildren's money. So I said enough was enough. I tried to get leadership to get there's about 15 of us or so that were kind of hardliners on this stuff. Tried to get leadership to get us in a room to talk about it. They wouldn't do it. They sent us home on a long weekend when they shouldn't have. Again, September 30th comes around about this time every year. You can check your dadgum calendar. It'll happen. And then here we are. We're $33 trillion in debt. We're kicking the can down the road, and they're declaring victory. And to me, that's not victory. That is abdicating your duty. We are required by law to pass a budget in 12 appropriations amendments. We haven't done that in 30 years. And the reason they do it is they get these continuation budgets or continuing resolutions. It's chock full of all the stuff that they can grease their lobbyist friends and the special interest and the Pentagon and the war pimps over there, and then they pass it. We had two, oddly enough, and this shows you the lack of leadership. We had two appropriations bills, one dealing with agriculture and the other dealing with the Pentagon. The agriculture bill had a lot of cuts in it. It did not pass. The Pentagon budget had $30 billion new dollars, and it was more money than the president even asked for. The Pentagon has never passed an audit. They lose billions of dollars in black ops and all this other garbage they're doing that they have no business being involved in. And at one time, 60% of their assets were unaccounted for. Yet I'm unpatriotic because I don't vote for their budgets. It's just ridiculous. We've got to have leadership. We got to have somebody strong in that position. We did not. We're going to put somebody in there strong, and that's why I voted the way I did.
So what do you say to those who, and make sure my audio is where it should be, please, Bill. I'm not hearing myself as much as I'm hearing Tim, but when
you sound good.
I want to make sure I can hear you and you can hear me. So when I hear from conservative members of the House of Representatives, and I've talked to several of them in Tennessee, in Alabama, and other places, who say that it was as conservative of a continuing resolution as you could have expected to get. The first one, is that the one that you're referring to that talks about the 30% increase in defense spending?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. A continued resolution is an abdication of our duties. We are required to pass a budget. A continued resolution is not a budget. We don't have budget hearings. We don't, and the reason we don't is so leadership can stay in power. And the powerful people up here still grease. It doesn't matter what side, who has the majority. When we're in power, we spend it on missile defense systems that everybody on both sides of the aisle owns stock in. When they're in power, they spend it on woke programs.
What do you say in response to people like former Speaker Newt Gingrich, who says that Matt Gaetz, and by extension you, I don't think that he called you out by name, but you were among the 8 Republicans that voted to vacate the chair, when he says that you're not really Republicans and you should be kicked out of the conference?
I'd say Newt needs to stay in his lane. Is this the same Newt Gingrich that divorced his wife who had breast cancer in the hospital, that served her with papers in the hospital? You know, that guy is not my moral compass. He's just selling books, and he gets on Fox and he does his thing. He was run out of this town on a rail. That's great what he did when he did it, but he's not here anymore. And I'm kind of sick of that kind of stuff coming from people like him. This country, we have a very short memory, and we're very forgiving. And I think some people need to remember who they're talking about. And for me to vote against trillions of dollars, we ran up $1 trillion in debt in 3 months this year. When I'm on the phone with Kevin McCarthy, and he makes excuses. He says, "Well, I said, why were we on vacation for 6 weeks? Well, I don't set the schedule. Or why haven't we had the term limits bill? Well, I don't decide that.
Wait. Stop for a second, Tim. The Speaker of the House at the time that you spoke with him said that he doesn't set the schedule?
That's correct.
Who does? Then who does?
Well, I think they're blaming Scalise for that. But he oversees it. The buck stops here. It's not just about cutting ribbons and going and seeing the Pope and flying around in your jet airplane that the taxpayers give you. It's about making tough decisions. That's what leadership is about. And it's gotten to this Hollywood status, and we baby these people and coddle them and throw millions of dollars of assets at them, and that needs to stop.
What about those who say, and I'm just trying to get you to answer some of these questions that have come up over the last 24 hours. What about those who say, Representative Burchett, that they were going to get in this 45-day stopgap, they were going to get the rest of the appropriations done, but because they now have to deal with the speakership issue, that they won't be able to do that? How do you respond to that?
Is that why they didn't start working till yesterday on it? We had all weekend to start on it. We've had since January to work on it. That's when we took over, January. And yet they put it up against September 30th, again, the end of our fiscal year. We took 6 weeks off. There's no urgency there. They want to back it up against the holiday and claim the same and blame it on the conservatives again. And yet they just want to spend more money. That's what it's all about. It's always about the money, both parties. And, it's not going to change until we have a mix-up in leadership, and leadership understands that we're going to hold them accountable. And that's exactly what the 8 of us did. We held them accountable.
Well, Tim, I'm fascinated that there doesn't seem to be any sense of urgency to get a new speaker in place. I mean, you guys gavelled out yesterday, which was Tuesday, and will not go back into session until next Wednesday?
Yeah, and that was a huge mistake. I was sitting in the room, and people were saying, "What are you doing?" And he was in charge. McCarthy put Patrick McHenry in charge, and he's one of his chairmen. He's one of his leadership team, and one of his boys. And that's what we got, and that's what we had. That's all we got to work.
Based on that action, it feels to me as if they're giving up on getting anything done with the appropriations bills over the next 45 days. Instead, they feel like they'll draw out the speaker vote and then point the finger at people like you and blame you for a lack of action on appropriations bills that I don't believe ever would have happened in the 45-day window to begin with.
Yeah, they all got their crazy strategy to do that. And it shows you, and in one conversation I had with Kevin McCarthy, the last thing he said was, "But I really want to be speaker." It's more about staying in power and not doing what's right for this country. And that's bottom line. It would all cave in around us, but they want to stay in power. And these groups, they all want to, this is their life, to get up in front of the camera and say that they are whatever. And it just, to me, that's my life's back in East Tennessee, to be honest with you.
Who is the name, or what is the name that you point to as the person that you would like to see as the next speaker? There are a number of names that have offered themselves up to service. I could name them for you. You know who they are, but I don't want to lead you in any particular direction. Who would be your choice?
I've talked to Steve Scalise, and Kevin Hearn tried to call me right when we started on this show, so I suspect he's calling me, asking me. And I told Steve Scalise last night, I don't want to commit to you or anybody else. I want to hear what everybody has to say. I want to find out exactly what they want to do. If they start down this old continuing resolution road, and we need to work, and we need to compromise. And these compromises are what's got us into trouble. But if they're sincere about our fiscal ship, righting our fiscal ship, that's the person I want to see. And that can put a vision forward that we can rally around, not just throw out three ideas and then whatever they can get the most votes on, that's the way they're going to go, because that is not leadership. That is just some kind of, that's a feel-good thing, and it's not about feeling good. We better take control of this country, and we better make some tough decisions, because I'll guarantee you, those folks that were griping, saying, Burchett, you're going to cause this government to shut down, for 3 or 4 days, and how that's going to hurt people. Well, I guarantee you the single moms in my district that work 2 jobs because we don't have the maturity fiscally to do anything about it will hurt a lot more when the economy crashes and they're having to pay, $100 for a loaf of bread, because we are heading towards that, and we better address it.
I was looking at the U.S. debt clock earlier today. People can find it at usdebtclock.org. Prepare to be very, very depressed. And 11 years ago, our debt was at $15 trillion, which is ridiculous. And today it's it's more than doubled. It's $33.4 trillion. Do you believe this to be the greatest existential threat for the United States of America today?
I do, because it will, we keep borrowing from the Chinese. We're addicted to the cheap money or free money or whatever you think it is. And then we just keep spending, and we keep spending, and we won't address it. And now they want to, let's form a blue ribbon committee to study it. We do, stop spending. We're not going to tax ourselves or regulate ourselves into prosperity. We've got to stop with the spending. And you can't keep adding $30 billion to the Pentagon budget every year and expect anything other than what we're seeing right now.
Did you have conversations with any of your colleagues in the state of Tennessee? You were the only Tennessee vote in favor of vacating the chair. Many others have spoken about the need to get our fiscal house in order. However, they saw this a little bit differently. Do you understand where, a Mark Green of the world or an Andy Ogles of the world or a Desjardins was? Do you understand where your colleagues in Tennessee were coming from?
Yeah, maybe I'm a little noble, or maybe I'm just stupid, but I told several of them, you don't need to hang yourself out on this. This is going to get rough. And I knew pretty much where the votes would fall, and that, I was in deep, and I wasn't coming out, and I was committed. And I told several of them that they could just stay where they're at. I'll take the hit.
Whether it's a Steve Scalise or a Jim Jordan who has offered his name to service as Speaker, what do you, Tim Burchett, need to hear from them in order for the next Speaker to get your support?
I need to hear from them that they are going to put a budget forward, and we are going to seriously work towards that. Because if we don't, it's all over. I mean, I don't know how else to tell you that. It is all over. We will cause a collapse that will be felt around the world. And unless we put our fiscal ship in order, and we have a plan to do that, and we follow that plan, then it's all over. It's all over.
Are you willing to stand by that, even if it means a temporary government shutdown around the holidays? I expect that that's where this is heading now. I think temporarily the Democrats they're going to enjoy over the next several weeks blaming Republicans for all of this. Do you believe that it would merit a shutdown unless and until you can get certain commitments from the new Speaker that they will pass a budget, they will pass appropriations bills, as opposed to the constant continuing resolutions that we've seen year after year?
If we do not make a tough stand, it will not happen. But we've got time. We can do this. we can do this. We got some great minds up here. And they got to put their differences aside and quit trying to wreck the system. And they got beat, and suck it up. We got to get on. We got a country to save. Honestly, I always remember what my daddy said one night. We'd worked the polls, and it was the night Bill Clinton was winning the White House. And we were at my old house there in West Hills at 8220 Bennington Drive. I like to say we were having a traditional Italian meal. I think we had Mr. Getty's pizza in front of us. And Daddy said the blessing. He said, Lord, please don't let us lose our country. And I thought, wow, there's a World War II veteran. We just elected a draft dodger to President of the United States. And that was his prayer. Lord, please don't let us lose our country. And that is exactly where I'm at right now. We are standing on the cusp if we do not step back from it.
Tim, thank you. I think I speak for a vast majority of the listening audience when we thank you for your stand and your vote. I think the apple cart needs to be upset. It seems to me that those that are willing to toss the apple cart are now being expected to count the apples, and I don't think that's the way that this works. So I appreciate you. Get some rest as you'll be home for a week or so and back after it next week. We'll talk to you again very soon.
Hey, thank you guys for always putting the truth out there. It means a lot. Thank y'all so much.